The House will come to order.
Oops.
Reports of standing committees and divisions. A copy of this order of business has been placed on each member's desk. If there is no objection, the reports will be adopted. Hearing no objection, the reports are adopted. Second reading of House files.
Second reading, House File number 2889.
Second reading. Calendar for the day. The first bill on the calendar for the day is House File 2796. The clerk will report the bill.
House File number 2796, number 1 on the calendar for the day, an act relating to state government.
I recognize the author of the bill, the member from Ramsey, Representative Lillie, to present your bill.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. House File 2796 is ratifies the state labor contracts for the Minnesota law enforcement team, and also has a provision in there for the Minnesota State Board of Investments. The first part with the Minnesota labor or the law enforcement covers the Minnesota State Troopers, conservation officers, BCA agents, specialists and agents in other state agencies. This contract is the last contract, that's so it's only good for about the next month or two, and the other contracts are all beginning to be negotiated for the next year and biennium. But this one matches up in the law enforcement area pretty close to the other contracts in that, as the other ones were. The State Board Investment portion of the bill covers plan for the investment staff and the executive director, and there's some they had some issues that they're trying to address on the State Board of Investments. This contract doesn't actually go through the in the traditional sense with the MMB. Like the other contracts are negotiated with the MMB and then come to us and we ratify. This contract is, they work through the board and then they come, the MMB looks at them, but really they says they support the changes, but they really don't have as much of a say. The State Board of Investment has had some trouble in the last couple of years. They're trying to address these. They had an outside group, much as you would if you owned a business. They had them come out and look at them and kind of study at their work group structure. So they determined through this process that, whoops. So that they needed to add some levels because they were losing people that weren't able to come in, and they were losing people with not staying on board. So anyways, I'll stand for questions, and that's about it.
There are no amendments at the desk. The clerk will give the bill its third reading.
Third reading, House File number 2796.
Third reading. Discussion. Seeing no discussion, the clerk will take the roll. The clerk will close the roll. There being 131 ayes and 0 nays, the bill is passed and is title agreed to. The next bill on the calendar for the day is House File 619. The clerk will report the bill.
House File number 619, number 2 on the calendar for the day, an act relating to local government, the first engrossment.
There are no amendments at the desk. The clerk will give the bill its third reading.
Third reading, House File number 619.
Third reading. I recognize the member from St. Louis, the author, Representative Sandstede, to explain your bill.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. House File 619 is a bill that makes two changes to the Central Iron Range Sanitary Sewer District. It changes the name to from Iron World to Minnesota Discovery Center. It's an update in the name. And then it allows for members of the Sewer Sanitary Board to not be required to be a resident of the community. This is because they have not been able to get members to serve on the board. And the communities are made up of small numbers of people in aging communities.
Discussion. Any discussion to the bill? Seeing none, the clerk will take the roll. Members, please vote. The clerk will close the roll. There being 127 ayes and 4 nays, the bill is passed and its title agreed to. The next bill on the calendar for the day is Senate File 573. The clerk will report the bill.
House File number 573, number 3 on the calendar for the day, an act relating to human services.
I recognize the member from St. Louis, Representative Schultz, to your bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, this is a recodification bill. So given the complexity of the elderly waiver program language, staff decided to accomplish the recodification by moving the elderly waiver language out of Minnesota statutes, Chapter 256B, and into a new Chapter 256S. Nonpartisan staff reorganized the elderly waiver program language for clarity and ease of use, removed obsolete language, used consistent terminology, defined previously undefined terms, and redrafted language for clarity and consistency. The language in this bill is not intended to change existing policy or to have a fiscal impact. So members, I urge a green vote.
Well, let me first say that there are no amendments at the desk. The clerk will give the bill its third reading.
Third reading, Senate File number 573.
Third reading. Any discussion to the bill? Seeing none, the clerk will take the roll. The clerk will close the roll. Anderson votes aye. There being 130 ayes and 0 nays, the bill is passed and its title agreed to. Look at all those green dots on the board. The next bill on the calendar for the day is Senate File 1257.
Senate File number 1257, number 4 on the calendar for the day, an act relating to health care.
The member from Fillmore, Representative Davids, to your bill.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, Senate File 1257, and I believe there's an amendment, but this is known as the EpiPen bill, which will allow more people to use them once they've had training.
There is an amendment at the desk. The clerk will report the amendment.
Davids moves to amend Senate File number 1257, the unofficial engrossment, and the amendment is coded A1.
Representative Davids.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. The amendment clarifies for school districts what they can and cannot do. Basically, it says that they can do whatever they want to do. So that's what the amendment does, and it's at the behest of school districts. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
All those in favor of the Davids amendment, please say aye. Those opposed, please say no. The motion prevails. The clerk will give the bill its third reading.
Third reading, Senate File Number 1257, as amended.
Third reading as amended. Discussion to the bill. Representative Davids, closing.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd really appreciate your support because I'm a little weak over here.
Seeing no discussion, the clerk will take the roll. Members, please vote. Members in the back row, please vote. The clerk will close the roll. There being 132 ayes and 0 nays, the bill is passed as amended and its title agreed to. The next bill on the calendar for the day is Senate File 1003. The clerk will report the bill.
Senate File Number 1003, number 5 on the calendar for the day, an act relating to transportation.
I recognize the member from Scott, Representative Albright, to explain your bill.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Richard J. Ames was born on May 4th, 1929, passed away on January 30th, 2019, leaving an enduring impact that will echo for generations through his family, business, and community. As founder of Ames Construction, Dick was a driving force to a multitude of successful projects in the commercial, energy, transportation, mining, rail, as well as water and wastewater industry sectors. Dick started a dirt-moving company with a single dozer and built it into a billion-dollar enterprise that shaped projects such as Target Field, St. Croix Crossing, the Denver International Airport, not to mention countless civic and public projects across Minnesota. Dick was preceded in death by his parents, Chester and Ruby, and his son, Bruce. He is survived by his wife, Lillie, brothers Butch, Tom, John, and Ron, sisters Peggy and Mary, sons Larry and Alan, daughters Marilyn and Lara, stepsons David and Richard Thomas, stepdaughter Tony Walsh, 16 grandchildren, and 29 great-grandchildren. Members, that was the obituary for Dick Ames from the Star Tribune. What it doesn't say was the import that he had to our state and to our communities. And oftentimes, when a man of this stature passes, I think we take for granted all that he meant to us and to others from a business perspective. But I can honestly say, in my time knowing that man, that he meant so much more to the people of Scott County and to the South Metro, not to mention the state of Minnesota. We oftentimes drive over bridges and roads and construction projects, whether they buildings or not, and we take for granted the time and effort and the vision that is put into putting those pieces of infrastructure together. Dick was never one that did anything half-heartedly. When he decided to invest himself into a project, he was all in. And for the sake of the communities of Jordan and Prior Lake, which I represent, he will be sorely missed. I'd like to thank Chair Hornstein personally for support of this endeavor. He gave us a very kind and very warm hearing very early on in the process. I thought, as Chair Hornstein said, it was very fitting for this bill to come through the Transportation Committee. So, Chair Hornstein, thank you very much. I'd also like to thank a very good friend of mine who is standing over my left-hand shoulder, Senator Pratt, who carried it in the Senate. Senator Pratt and I have had the great fortune of knowing the Ames family for a number of years, and I can honestly say that he will be sorely missed. But for a number of other reasons, we celebrate what he has brought to the communities that we represent. And for that, Madam Speaker, I urge everyone a green vote. Thank you.
There are no amendments at the desk. The clerk will give the bill its third reading.
Third reading, Senate File Number 1003.
Third reading. Any discussion to the bill? The member from Dakota, Representative Mason.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just want to add my recollections of Dick Ames as well. I knew him mainly because he was on the Scott County Fair Board. And when I was on the Dakota County Fair Board, we needed to put in a new track. And since Scott County had already done that, we went and asked him for his advice. Not only did he give advice, he actually put in the new track in Dakota County. And what he wanted in payment for that was a picture with the 4-H kids. So on the opening day of the fair, we held a long parade with all the kids, and then a photo was taken. And if you go to Burnsville, you'll see a number of statues that, again, were donated by Dick and his family. There's also the Ames Center, which they are paying a considerable amount to help fund over the number of years. He has done so many things for our communities, so this is really richly deserved.
The member from Sibley, Representative Grunhagen.
Well, thank you, Madam Speaker. Yeah, and I had the opportunity to meet Dick last campaign season. He owns farmland in my district, and with his passing, there were editorials in the local paper about funds he had donated to help with the baseball park in a small community and other projects. So he was more than just a person in the local community. He also affected other areas, including my district. So I'm sure you'll be greatly missed. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion to the bill? Seeing none, the clerk will take the roll. The clerk will close the roll. There being 129 ayes and 2 nays, the bill is passed and its title agreed to. The next bill on the calendar for the day is Senate File 1261. The clerk will report the bill.
Senate File Number 1261, number 6 on the calendar for the day, an act relating to transportation.
I recognize the member from Kandiyohi, Representative Baker, to your bill.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. I wanted to follow in Representative Albright's fine tradition by recognizing a member of our wonderful armed services, Specialist Ryane Clark, a young man from New London, Minnesota, who passed away in 2010 while serving our country in Afghanistan. His mom and dad, Ryan and Tracy, were here about a month and a half ago also to recognize him through Chair Hornstein's committee as well, and we also received a very warm welcome to his committee. So Chair Hornstein, thank you again for that as well. We are very proud of this young man. He was a great athlete. He actually was a Cub Scout who started a park in his area, or had an idea of a park during his Cub Scout years, and he passed away before that was recognized. A couple years ago, the community got together, provided this park in his honor alongside the Glacial Lakes Bike Trail, which is close to Highway 23, and we'd like to put a little section of roadway for Specialist Clark And as a dad who knows what it's like to want to make sure you never let your community forget about your children, this is very special to them. And you want to make sure that they know who your son is. So I'm very proud and honored tonight to stand here to ask our members to light up the green board for Specialist Ryane Clark in honor of our community. So thank you, Madam Chair.
There are no amendments at the desk. The clerk will give the bill its third reading.
Third reading, Senate File Number 1261.
Third reading, discussion. Seeing no discussion, the clerk will take the roll. The clerk will close the roll. There being 131 ayes and 0 nays, the bill is passed and its title agreed to. The next bill on the calendar for the day is Senate File 2089. The clerk will report the bill.
Senate File Number 2089, number 7 on the calendar for the day, an act relating to human services.
I recognize the member from Dakota, the author of the bill, Representative Koznick.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, House File or Senate File 2089, this bill would add taxi cab owners and operators to the Non-Emergency Medical Transportation Advisory Subcommittee. The bill language was approved unanimously at the January 25th Non-Emergency Medical Transportation Advisory Committee meeting and unanimously passed off the floor of the other body. I ask for a green vote.
There are no amendments at the desk. The clerk will give the bill its third reading.
Third reading, Senate File Number 2089.
Third reading. Discussion. The member from Dakota, Representative Hewitt.
Madam Speaker, would Representative Koznick stand for a question, please?
He will yield. Representative Hewitt.
Representative Koznick, with medical transportation, non-emergent medical transportation being on the rise, are the rideshare companies considered a taxi company or not?
Representative Koznick.
Representative, Madam Speaker, this is for taxi cab owners and operators, so I believe the answer to your question is no.
Representative Hewitt.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Any further discussion to the bill? Seeing none, the clerk will take the roll. The clerk will close the roll. There being 131 ayes and 0 nays, the bill is passed and its title agreed to. Messages from the Senate.
Message from the Senate. Madam Speaker, I hereby announce the Senate refuses to concur in the House amendments to the following Senate File. Senate File Number 316, an act relating to state government. The Senate respectfully requests that a conference committee be appointed thereon. The Senate has appointed as such committee Senators Howe, Kiffmeyer, and Lane. The message is signed Cal R. Ludeman, Secretary of the Senate. Mason moves that the House accede to the request of the Senate and that the Speaker appoint a conference committee of 3 members of the House to meet with a like committee appointed by the Senate on the disagreeing votes of the 2 houses on Senate File Number 316.
Representative Mason.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. That is my request, that we accede to the request of the Senate and that a conference committee be appointed.
All those in favor of the Mason motion, please say aye. Those opposed, please say no. The motion prevails. Announcement by the Speaker.
Announcement by the Speaker. The Speaker announces the appointment of the following members of the House to a conference committee on Senate File Number 316. Mason, Bonner, and Vogel.
Messages from the Senate.
Message from the Senate, Madam Speaker. I hereby announce the passage by the Senate of the following House file, herewith returned as amended by the Senate, in which amendments the concurrence of the House is respectfully requested. House File Number 990, an act relating to financial institutions. The message is signed Cal R. Ludeman, Secretary of the Senate. Sundin moves that the House concur in the Senate amendments to House File Number 990 and that the bill be repassed as amended by the Senate.
I recognize the author, Representative Sundin, who will explain the Senate amendments.
That is my motion, Madam Speaker. 990 clearly defined who is and who is not a mortgage originator. This measure passed through this chamber already. There's some amendments that were tacked on in another legislative body. And now this requires disclosure of any corporate affiliation with people selling or not selling, but working with the Manufactured Modular Home Association. These disclosures will be listed on the form and be posted on the department's website.
Is there any discussion to the Senate amendments? There being no further discussion, all those in favor of the motion to concur with the Senate amendments, please say aye. Those opposed, please say no. The motion prevails. The clerk will give the bill its third reading as amended by the Senate.
Third reading, House File Number 990, as amended by the Senate.
Third reading as amended by the Senate. Discussion to the bill. The member from Anoka, Representative Heinrich.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, this is a good bill. Vote green.
Seeing no further discussion, the clerk will take the roll on the bill. Members, please vote. The clerk will close the roll. There being 131 ayes and 0 nays, the bill is repassed as amended by the Senate and its title agreed to. Message from the Senate.
Madam Speaker, I hereby announce the passage by the Senate of the following House file, herewith returned as amended by the Senate, in which amendments to concurrence of the House is respectfully requested. House File Number 1960, an act relating to commerce. The message is signed Cal R. Ludeman, Secretary of the Senate. Richardson moves that the House concur in the Senate amendments to House File Number 1960 and that the bill be repassed as amended by the Senate.
The member from Dakota, Representative Richardson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This is a technical housekeeping bill from the Department of Commerce. The Senate language has a slight change that clarifies language that collection agencies cannot commence legal actions outside of the statute of limitations.
Is there any discussion on the Senate amendments? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion to concur with the Senate amendments, please say aye. Those opposed, please say no. The motion prevails. The clerk will give the bill its third reading as amended by the Senate.
Third reading, House File Number 1960, as amended by the Senate.
Third reading as amended by the Senate. Any further discussion? Seeing none, the clerk will take the roll. The clerk will close the roll. There being 131 ayes and 0 nays, the bill is repassed as amended by the Senate and its title agreed to. Message from the Senate.
Madam Speaker, I hereby announce the passage by the Senate of the following House file, herewith returned as amended by the Senate, in which amendments the concurrence of the House is respectfully requested. House File Number 90, an act relating to health. The message is signed Cal R. Ludeman, Secretary of the Senate. Schultz moves that the House concur in the Senate amendments to House File 90 and that the bill be repassed as amended by the Senate.
Please take conversations off the House floor into the alcoves or the retiring room. I recognize the author, Representative Schultz, who will explain the Senate amendments.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. The changes to House File 90 that was amended by the Senate are the fee structure, the number of days of notification for electronic monitoring device of 14 days, and some technical cleanup that doesn't change policy or appropriation. So members, I urge you to vote green. A lot of work and compromise went into this bill. We've worked on it for a long time. Others worked on it last session. I want to thank the staff, all the stakeholders, the commissioners, the agency staff for putting in so many hours to get to a compromise and a consensus. So members, I urge you to vote green and support this bill so we can license assisted living facilities and protect our vulnerable seniors and adults.
I recognize the member from Sherburne, Representative Zerwas.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, to Representative Schultz, thank you so much for your hard work on this bill. We had a discussion when this bill was first passed about some dots in the bill. And so I'm wondering if you could inform the body on what numbers were filled in those spaces. If I remember correctly, the numbers you provided for us during the debate was a licensure fee of $2,000 per facility and $175 per bed. And that was the numbers you provided from the Department of Health that you were so confident in, we didn't want to actually include it in the bill. And so I'm just wondering how that shook out when those stakeholders got together and what the dots were replaced with. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Schultz.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. For the assisted living facilities with dementia care, it's $3,000 plus $100 per bed. For assisted living facilities without dementia care, it's $2,000 plus $75 per bed. So as I said before, those numbers I quoted after being asked were approximate numbers. These are exact numbers. So members, please vote yes.
Representative Zerwas.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Representative Schultz, I have something for you. Good job. Thanks so much for your work.
Discussion to the Senate amendments. Representative Dowd.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd recommend members support the motion.
Representative Keel.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Representative Schultz, thank you very much for working on this. And members, I really appreciate the fact with all the work that was done on this bill and the challenges that came with the complication, that there was an agreement and something that will help the providers as well as the residents that are looking for that type of care and the challenges it presents to families. So thank you very much for your hard work, and all the staff too. There's a lot of people. I don't think that we're aware of all the people that put effort into this bill. So members, I would encourage a green vote. Thank you.
Any further discussion to the Senate amendments? Representative O'Driscoll.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, I know everybody stands up and says it won't be long. I will not be long. I encourage a green vote on this bill. This has been something that Representative Keel and Representative Schultz and others have been working on, and if you don't have to look very deep in your district to find that this is going to be good. And Representative Schultz, thank you for connecting the dots on this one. Much appreciated.
Any further discussion on the Senate amendments? The member from Mille Lacs, Representative Erickson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Would Representative Schultz yield to a question?
She will yield. Representative Erickson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Representative Schultz, is this a one-time fee with whether it's dementia or without dementia for our assisted living facilities?
Representative Schultz.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. It's a one-time fee, and then there are renewal fees that are different, and they vary by size of facility.
Representative Erickson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Representative Schultz.
Any further discussion to the Senate amendments? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion to concur with the Senate amendments, please say aye. Those opposed, please say no. The motion prevails. The clerk will give the bill its third reading as amended by the Senate.
Third reading, House File Number 90, as amended by the Senate.
Third reading as amended by the Senate. Any discussion to the bill? Seeing none, the clerk will take the roll. The clerk will close the roll. There being 125 ayes and 6 nays, the bill is repassed as amended by the Senate and its title agreed to. Motions and resolutions. There are copies of the non-controversial motions at the House desk and online. If there is no objection, we will take action on those motions first. Hearing no objection, the motions prevail. Announcements. The member from Lyon, Representative Swedzinski.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you. Just a kind of a reminder, folks, I can remember we all spent time on the campaign trail in years past. And one of my first times out and about, I was talking to a constituent's door, and we were talking at a constituent's door. And, sorry, I didn't mean that. And we were visiting and visiting and visiting. And all of a sudden, this person just broke off the conversation and started yelling down the street, "Handsome stranger! Handsome stranger!" And I'm like, what in the world is going on? And what she was doing is chasing a yellow truck. And those yellow trucks are your Schwann's trucks. Tomorrow is Schwann's Ice Cream Day. Just letting everybody know.
That's a nice announcement. Other announcements? Any other announcements? Representative Winkler.
Madam Speaker, I move that when the House adjourns today, it adjourns until 11 a.m. Monday, May 20th, 2019.
Representative Dowd.
Madam Speaker, Representative Winkler, would you check your script? I think it might say something different than 11.
Representative Winkler.
Madam Speaker, Representative Dowd, I don't have to follow the script.
Representative Winkler moves that when the House adjourns today, it adjourn until 11 a.m. Monday, May 20th, 2019. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. No. The motion prevails. Representative Winkler.
Madam Speaker, I move that the House do now adjourn.
Representative Winkler moves that the House do now adjourn. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. The motion prevails and the House stands adjourned until 11 a.m. Monday, May 20th, 2019.